A brief history of how Homo sapiens survived the last ice age. Possessing all the superpower senses, experts also suggest that perhaps Homo sapiens killed all their ancestral cousins to solely rule the Earth and its assets. What were the strategies used by Homo sapiens that made them survive the historical Ice Age period? What tools and diet plans have they adapted to make their lives easier? Is there any link between Homo sapiens' evolution and with sudden extinction of all other species, including Homo erectus, Denisovans, and Hominini? All of your questions will be answered shortly in this video. Not only relating to food, housing, and migration, the survival story of Homo sapiens in the Ice Age is a combination of luck and flashing development of civilization among them. Coming across these realities makes modern Homo sapiens much more firm in their intentions and motivates them to make efforts and play their part in making this world a better place to live. We are still living in the Ice Age period. Yes, the interglacial phase of the Ice Age period in which the temperature fluctuates between extremes. Freezing Ice Age period, though a challenge to Homo sapiens' existence. Regarding the magnificent survival history of living creatures, Homo sapiens is no doubtedly the greatest of all. The ultimate powers to cope with incredibly fluctuating climatic changes and social sense of development have enabled Homo sapiens to bring themselves out of caves into lush offices of trading markets. Such a long and glorious voyage of evolution cannot be led without some extraordinary capabilities and foresightedness. Focusing on the harshest climatic era, the Ice Age era that evolved over 115,000 years ago and peaked for 24,000 years and 21,000 years ago, along with the extensive sheets of ice covering most of North America, Northern Europe, mountain ranges like Africa's Mount Kilimanjaro, and South America's Andes. This freezing to the death changing climate had been the biggest reason for vanishing homininis. Homo erectus, Denisovans, and Neanderthals all over the globe. Those were close ancestral cousins of Homo sapiens, yet not enough powerful as Homo sapiens to thrive themselves. Homo sapiens, with their unusual skill of planning, hunting, building, and communication abilities, definitely made other species and environmental changes bow in front of them. Compound tools, the turning point for Homo sapiens' survival. Ruling the world with inventions is not a new thing to Homo sapiens, whether it comes to tool industries or fire lighting. Homo sapiens were always found a few steps ahead. Many archaeologists and biologists have spent their lives trying to solve the survival mystery of Homo sapiens. The tools used by other species were also the same, but their implementation and modification was the key point. Homo sapiens used their exceptional sense of socialization and advancement by learning from their ancestors, and used all of them in a much appreciable way. Not like the ones made by Homo erectus for hunting by creating sharp edges on stones and rocks, which were not projectile in nature and could not cover an extensive range of the quarry. By application of disposable tools, Homo sapiens used to attack the wild animals from far away, keeping themselves at a safe distance. They used bones of dead animals with sharp ends and joint features to make them flexible and lightweight, that increasing their carrying capacity. Complex tools made by Homo sapiens in the Ice Age era stunned many archaeologists and biologists, as they were extremely compound and were also being used for multiple functions. Verbal communication, told what they saw to thrive in the brassy climate. Homo erectus and other homininis were also very advanced in their living methods, but still they were unfortunate enough to get swiped away by waves of global environmental fluctuations. As early Homo sapiens seemed to rule the world through their God-gifted abilities and intellectual minds, that is apparently what one needs to conquer all the available resources of life. All other species living on Earth were much inferior in sense of communication and future planning abilities as compared to Homo sapiens. With variants of compound tools and a geologic sense of cultivation, Homo sapiens were the most successful species to overcome the nightmare named as Ice Age period. This perception of memory, making and learning lessons from the past was not the 100% responsible factor. Yet the speaking ability and transfer of ideas among them also made their ways easier. Homo erectus and other hominines were not able to speak and used different sign languages for signaling the danger near them. However, Homo sapiens were blessed with speech ability thanks to the anatomy of their throats. This speaking ability proved to be a verbal weapon for them. Homo sapiens were able to convey their message in a facile way, which became a major reason for their existence during that deadly Ice Age period. Migration to less effective areas, claiming the resources with remarkable abilities. The ruthless weather of the Ice Age covering America and in the northern continents of Europe made all the species, including Homo sapiens, move toward less effective regions of the sphere. This was the absolute mastery of Homo sapiens that made them conquer all the assets of living even in the Brassy Ice Age period lasting almost 3 million years. More or less, it was also the luck factor that contributed to the successful survival story of the Homo sapiens. They tend to live in Africa, which was least affected by the Ice Age disaster. Early Homo sapiens had a great sense of hostility that made migration very easy for them. They used to migrate to neighboring areas and understood each other's conditions with patience. Migration to distinct areas of the world and curiosity guided the Homo sapiens to live a successful Ice Age period. They were blessed with supernatural powers and applied them wisely to make advanced tools and choose suitable locations for their generations to blossom. Better hunting strategies, increasing their access to meat. The tools made by Homo sapiens were also more advanced in nature than the ones made by Homo erectus, as they were not able to cover long-range hunting, so eventually they had to pounce upon the big wild animals to kill them. This also produced shortage of food for them and makes their lives more miserable. Homo sapiens also devised different hunting strategies involving fire traps. Homo sapiens have sharp thinking ability. In spring, rodents, zebras, and rhinos migrated from Siberia into savannas. They used to kill them in a specifically tapped area. They keep their food preserved in the form of dry meat and use it again in the winter. This was the reason serving behind the struggle story of Homo sapiens' survival during the Ice Age period. Lightning, fire, and brave thinking made them prey on beasts like brown bears and wolves too. The Homo sapiens were much more knowledgeable as they used their sense of storytelling to cover the weather changes in developing more fruitful hunting plans. The dry and cold winds also became a major reason for the extinction of many plants and animal species that were once living there before the transformation of these meadows into spacious glacier sheets. Clothing that protects them from cold weather. One of the most delicate matters was clothing. The Homo sapiens, unlikely Homo erectus, who is once the longest-lived species on the Earth, began to look for something that can protect their bodies from the freezing gale of the Ice Age period. The hominini cousins of them were much alike in general physiology, but still they were disappearing at a very fast rate from all the regions of the Earth, which made them realize that surviving in the Ice Age would not be possible without something that can cover their frameworks. As you all know that necessity is the mother of invention, and the need for clothes compels Homo sapiens to invent a needle. According to Fang, a famous emeritus professor of anthropology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, the manufacture of the needle gives a whole new and unimaginable turn to the survival story of Homo sapiens. At this point of intellect, Homo sapiens invented a needle, a tool that was new to them with a sharp, fine tip and a hole at the other end, which was utilized to sew clothes, tents, and shelters from the skin of animals. Several shreds of evidence of archaeological remains also hit upon the idea of dyeing the threads that they collected from plant cellulose. Rock-based shelters stopping breeze to cross their limits. The Ice Age period also provoked all living things to find out more solid ways to escape through the chilly breezes entering their caves. Later species of Homo sapiens realized that their protection from cool breeze was a serious matter of concern and started building new shelters in rocky areas. Deep-dogged caves were found in rocks which were transformed into more covered shelters by the use of bones and woods. Getting prompted by the invention of needles and more comfortable shelter houses enabled Homo sapiens to progress at a higher rate than other species. Digging deep into the evolutionary history, this expedition had not been easier for Homo sapiens. as they faced many climatic changes and shortage of food in combination with many outbursts of chronic disease among their tribes, and they lost their loved ones. This struggle put the light on many new inventions on Homo sapiens and convert them into the most civilized living creatures on the surface of the earth, but at what cost? Culture, art, and craft. The sense of culture and art crafting in Homo sapiens was no less than any other species on this planet. It is also assumed by many archaeologists and histologists that the natural sense of competition persuaded Homo sapiens to kill their own ancestral cousins, including Homo erectus and Denisovans. None of them survived the Ice Age period. Their sudden disappearance before the end of this challenging period in human evolutionary history arose many questions. Conclusion: power of speech, amazing compound, flexible tool development, and correctly chosen locations for migration made Homo sapiens win over their other ancestral species that unfortunately could not continue to thrive and reproduce anymore. While Homo erectus lived in Indonesia, the Neanderthals in Europe, and the mysterious Denisovans in Asia. All of them disappeared before the end of the Ice Age period. The Ice Age period gave tough competition to the survival abilities to live creatures, but Homo sapiens managed to survive this devastating period with their unexceptional qualities. Perhaps this was all a combination of virtue and unseen forces that allowed Homo sapiens to exist till now.